Hey, well, happy Easter, everybody. Hey, it is great to have you here, whether you are joining us inside, outside, watching online, Canyon Country, Simi Valley. We are thrilled that you are with us and hope you're having a happy Easter and a great, great day and a great weekend planned for you. And we have been just very excited about this weekend and praying for you and praying for those that would show up and those that would tune in and those that would be here, whether or not you wanted to be here or not. Okay, let's be honest. Some of you thought you were going to brunch and you're here and you're bitter, and that's okay. We're glad you're here, okay? And I don't know where you are on the continuum of what you believe and what you think, but you just need to know that you are welcome here. This is a place for all people. So whether or not you are a follower of Jesus or you're not sure Jesus exists, or you don't believe in God, wherever you are on that spectrum, you're welcome here. This is a place for all people, whether you are Republican, Democrat, Independent, whether you are a Dodger fan, an Angels fan, whether you are Team Jacob, Team Edward, it doesn't matter here, whether you're an Oakland Raiders fan or you're not crazy. Wherever you are, I kid, please don't hurt me, all right? We're really thrilled that you are here. And we've been praying that this weekend would be a pivotal moment in your spiritual journey. And this weekend, we're talking about something that every single one of us needs. And I don't think there's been a time in our lifetime that our world has needed it more than right now, and that is hope. And we're talking about where hope comes from and how we can receive hope and how hope is for more than just what happens after we die, but even while we still live. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. And that's what we've been singing about and thinking about and talking about already. And I just want to go ahead and invite you back to next week, because next week we're kicking off a brand new series that's going to last 4 weeks. And we'll be talking about this subject matter, how to get what you really want. Now, if I were to ask you, what do you want? You'd say something kind of like, well, I want brunch like I was promised, or I want, a new car or a new house. Okay, that's fine. But what do you really want? When you peel back the onion a little bit and you get down below the surface, what is it you really want? And most of us don't know, and we certainly don't know how to get it. So it's just kind of a little commercial for what's coming up. Take a look at this. Okay, so that starts next week around here, and we're going to get to the bottom of that question that the Rolling Stones posed for us. Sometimes you don't always get what you want, but you get what you need, and we're going to figure out what that is. And if you give me 4 weeks, we're going to walk through figuring out what it is you really want and how to actually get it. And for your kids, they're going to get what they really want, because next weekend at all of our campuses, the Kona ice truck will be there. So nothing like bringing your kids to church and giving them a whole lot of sugar than taking them home. So you might want to plan on dropping them off at grandparents for a little bit after that. But whatever, we really want to invite you back next week. And some of you, you're not from around here. You're going to be heading back home, or maybe you're watching online and you don't live around here. Join us on our online community, reallifechurch.org, and you can be part of the online experience and receive the same kind of content and service right there. And so make sure that you do that, kicking off next week. All right, so today we're talking about hope, and we gave you a handout on the way in. So I'm going to ask everybody to take that out right now. And if you didn't receive one of those, would you just raise your hand and one of our kind service hosts will bring one by for you. And this is a all skate, okay? Everybody needs one of these. This is not a, one per family or anything like that. And if you're outside, just raise your hand and somebody will bring you one as well. Now here's what I'm going to ask you to do. Some of you have already violated this. Don't open it, okay? This is like the SAT. Do not open that thing yet. And some of you have huge authority issues, so you're going to open it now, all right, in my face. And that's between you and God. But just don't open it yet, because that will spoil the surprise. And we're going to save this till the end of our time together. But just make sure you have this. And then take out a pen or a pencil or a crayon or whatever you got with you to write with, and use that. And then go ahead and flip it over. And on the back side of it, you're going to see 4 blanks, okay? 4 blanks, and we're going to walk through these in our time together today. Now, here's what you need to know as we get started. You're the only one that's going to see this. So don't be thinking, oh no, I'm going to write down all my worst sins and then turn this in when this is all over. And then we'll show up at your house on Tuesday and say, man, you got a problem. Okay, so that's not going to happen. This is just between you and God. So there are 4 blanks here. We're going to walk through these. Make sure you have something to write with. Ready? And if you're watching online, there's a way for you to do this as well. Here we go. Blank number 1, I want you to write your first name or your nickname or whatever people call you, Buddy, Champ, Skip, Hank the Tank, whatever it is. Put it in there. For me, I would write Rusty, although many people think my name is Randy. And I don't know why that is. I don't think people named Randy get called Rusty all the time, but I get called Randy all the time. And I've even introduced by people as, hey, I want you to meet my good friend, Randy. I don't think so. I don't think we're that close, you know? But I get that enough that I answer to it. So there you go. So I might write that down, but I'll probably write Rusty down. Okay, so write your first name down. Now here's what I know about that name that you just wrote down. I know that name represents a person with hopes and dreams and aspirations. I know that person is somebody who has desires for what they're going to do with their life, how their life is going to end up, and maybe it's different than the way their life is going right now. And so speaking of what it is that is your dream or your hope, in that second blank, I want you to write down something that brings you joy, that you just feel alive when you do this. And maybe it's hiking in the mountains, maybe it's going to the beach, maybe it's working on a car, maybe it's going shopping, I don't know. But you know something that when you're engaged in this activity, you feel like this is what you were made to do. You feel fully alive. Now, I can tell you what that is for me. As much as I love to go to the mountains, as much as I love to go to the beach, one of my favorite things is movie night with the family. Okay, and we'll sit down, just the 4 of us, and we'll rotate who gets to pick what movie we're going to watch. And I love it that a few years ago, our girls got to that age where we didn't have just to watch, animated movies anymore. We could watch movies that Mom and I have enjoyed from our youth, and really, kind of educate the kids. And so it was my night to pick, and this was kind of apparently not a good choice, but I thought it was time for the kids to see Jaws. Kind of forgot how horrific that can be, and now our youngest is afraid to get in the bathtub, let alone the ocean. So, it was a parenting fail, right? I'll just be honest with you, okay? And they're in therapy for it. But anyway, and then we watched Jaws 2 and 3, and no, I'm kidding you. But maybe you've had a great moment where you think, boy, this is just me. This is so fulfilling. Write that in that second box there, something that brings you life. Okay, here's the third one. Write down a dream that you've yet to fulfill. And maybe that's you wanted to graduate from college. Maybe that's you always wanted to adopt a child. Maybe that's you wanted to get out of debt. Maybe that is you wanted to start a business. And it's a dream that you have had, but you've never fulfilled it. And here's the reality for every single one of us is we all have unmet expectations. And we all have unrealized dreams. In fact, for many of us, we might feel like we're in a season right now where we are just disappointed with life. And maybe you're in that state where you're looking around thinking, I've got more days behind me than I do before me, and I've not fulfilled all the dreams that I once had for my life. In fact, you may feel this Easter like a little bit like this Easter card that I saw, where this bunny says, I feel hollow inside, right? And maybe this is the way that you feel. And the truth is, as we come to this Easter weekend, every one of us knows what it's like to feel hollow inside. So let me just ask you this. Do you remember the first time when you began to feel this way? When you began to feel like life wasn't turning out the way you always hoped it would? Maybe for you, it was when you graduated from college and they weren't hiring in your field. Maybe for you, it was when somebody served you divorce papers. Maybe for you is when you had a family member pass away. Maybe for you, it was when you discovered that you were not going to be able to have children. Maybe for you, it was just realizing that you weren't going to be able to get that job that you'd always hoped for, or that promotion that you felt you had earned. Maybe for you, it's not so much of any kind of a tragic event, but it's just the day-to-day realization that your life is not what you hoped it would be. And now you're getting older, and old man wrinkle is beginning to show up, and the weight in your body is shifting from the poles to the equator, if you know what I mean, right? And you begin to just realize that it's not what you thought it was, and life is sometimes disappointing. You know, all of us have those kind of moments, and all of us feel hollow inside sometimes, and all of us feel hopeless at times. And I just want to call that one word today, and that is the word Saturday. Now, that might seem strange to you because typically Saturday for us is a great day. We don't have school, we don't have work, we get to do whatever we want, right? Or whatever you're told around the house. But the truth is you have a great day on Saturday. But reality is when it comes to Easter, Saturday was not a good day. Because the Easter story, Saturday is the day that hope is dead. You see, the Easter story is a 3-day story. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Death, burial, resurrection. Trouble, silence, deliverance. Beginning, middle, and end. And we all know about the first day. We know about Good Friday because we talk about Good Friday. And we celebrate it because that's the day that Jesus died for us. And we all know about Easter Sunday, and that's the Sunday that we all celebrate. And we celebrate today because it's the day that Jesus came back from the dead. But the day that we often really forget about is Saturday. And this was a devastating day because Good Friday brought about shock, but Saturday brought about hopelessness. You see, these people that had chosen to follow Jesus had left family, had left homes, had left careers, had left jobs, had left security, and they all followed after this itinerant preacher, this rabbi who was a son of a carpenter, thinking that he was the Son of God, thinking that he would be the one to overthrow Rome, thinking he was the one that they'd been waiting for, the Messiah. And they had followed him for 3 years, watching him perform miracle after miracle. And so when he was arrested on Thursday night, they thought, this won't last long. Jesus will stand up and utter a few words, and everybody will fall down, and we'll all walk out of here like we did before. But he didn't. And then when he's brought before Pilate, they think, oh, this is it. This is when he's going to perform his magic, and he's going to, the pyrotechnics are going to go off, and everybody's going to bow before him, and then suddenly we'll overthrow Rome, and we'll be in charge. But he didn't. And then when he's sentenced to be flogged, which is to be drug out into the city streets and suspended from a pole where the back is stretched out tight, and then Roman soldiers take whips made of long strands of leather with little bits of bone and rock on the end of them so they could wrap around the body, lodge into the skin, and then rip that off 39 times. All of his disciples thought, surely at some point he's going to stop this. But he didn't. And then when he's sentenced to die and is forced to carry his cross through the city streets of Jerusalem, outside the city, where he is nailed to this cross, everybody has to be thinking, what is going on? This is not supposed to happen. The Son of God does not die. But then he did. And they look and they see this crucifixion going on of their Lord. And for us, crucifixion is so sanitized for us today. We have tattoos of the cross. We have gold cross earrings. We have gold cross necklaces. But for people back then, it was a horrific thing. They'd seen it. They'd heard the cries. They'd smelled it as they walked by criminals crucified on crosses around Jerusalem. it was a sign from Rome saying, we're in charge here. And then to see Jesus go through this, everybody was stunned. The Son of God doesn't die. And as Saturday approaches, hope is over. And a guy by the name of Joseph from a town called Arimathea, he decides, you know what? We at least got to pay our respects and bury him properly. And this just shows us that Jesus was indeed dead. Take a look at what Joseph does here. He went to Pilate and he asked for Jesus' body. And then he took the body down from the cross and he wrapped it in a long sheet of linen cloth and he laid it in a new tomb that had been carved out of rock. And do you understand how strange this was? If you're crucified, it means you're a criminal. And then when you're done being crucified and you're dead, they literally scrape your body off that cross and drag it out into a big heap where you can just rot and decay and the animals can get you. But in this case, somebody steps up and he says, no, no, no. This guy was special. I want to bury him in the tomb that's been carved out for me. And that's something that only happened for the rich. And they put him in this tomb and they roll the stone in front of it and he's dead. And it's Saturday and all hope is gone. And the disciples, the followers of Jesus, must have thought, we have fallen for the biggest hoax of all time. We have fallen for a joke. Now, you all know what today is, right? It's April Fool's Day. And there's all kinds of pranks being pulled on people, and maybe you've done that, maybe you haven't, but just in case you need some ideas, I brought with me 3 pictures that may help you. Here's the first one. This is the classic, put somebody's stapler into a Jell-O mold. That's always a good idea. Here's a second one. You have to look carefully at this one. This is a keyboard, and they've moved all the keys around. And this third one is an ode to Lionel Richie's song, Stuck on You. This is duct tape instead of toilet paper. So, you know, just some ideas for around the house, right? And whether or not you get into April Fool's Day or not, you got to know this, that the people that were following Jesus, it didn't have to be April 1st. They felt like fools. They felt like they had fallen for the biggest hoax ever because Jesus was dead. And they had to be thinking, God, where are you in all of this? God, do you even care? God, why are you silent? And we've all been there before. So here's what I want you to do with that last blank on your handout. There's a word that is used for this kind of a feeling when we don't know what God is up to. And this is what the New Testament writers talk about in all of the letters and documents we have about Jesus and the first church in the first century. And the word is mystery. I want you to write down in that last blank a mystery of what you just don't understand God might be doing in your life. A disappointment with your life, unable to understand or get over, a time where you think, God, I don't know why you're allowing this, why you're doing this, or if you're just not powerful enough to stop it. Maybe it's the mystery of why your kids went a different direction than you raised them to. Maybe it's the mystery of disharmony in the family and just people not getting along. Maybe it's the mystery of why a family member can't get over an addiction. Maybe it's the mystery of why your life hasn't turned out the way you'd planned. And here's the reality. All of us have something that robs our hope, that robs our joy, and makes us feel hollow inside. You see, the reason Easter Sunday is so great is because Saturday was so bad. You see, as far as we know, there's only one day in the last 2,000 years that there were no followers of Jesus, and it was Saturday because they all thought he was dead. You understand, nobody is planning for him to return the next day. The disciples are not outside the tomb counting down to the next day. 10, 9, 8. You know, and John is not saying to Peter, what are you going to say to Jesus tomorrow when we see him? Mary Magdalene is not thinking, what will I wear for Easter Sunday? Our hat's still in. Do we do pastels? How do we do this? No one's thinking about it because they believe him to be dead, and hope is dead with him. This is not Saturday, or this is not Sunday, this is Saturday, and God is silent. What do you do? What do you do when you have no more hope? You see, there are two things that we put hope in, something or someone. The question is, what do you do when you don't have it? And all of us are hopers. Have you noticed that? We're like irrepressible hopers. This is why kids rush out to the Easter egg hunt, because the next egg is going to be better than the last one, right? This is why people go on first dates, because maybe this could be the one. This is why people start new businesses, because I think this is going to be a great idea. This is why you bought a treadmill. Because of hope, right? Not to become a place you store your clothes on in your bedroom. But you had a hope that you were going to use that thing, right? All of us are just irrepressible hopers. In fact, years ago, there was a tradition where girls would have this box at the end of their bed where they would store things in hope for when they got married. China, lace, linen, family heirlooms, and then they would take it into their marriage, into their home, and it would be part of their life. And this little box was called a hope chest. And in this little box went all of the hopes. Now, we don't do that much anymore, right? But we all still have a place we put our hopes, some things we put our hope in. For some of us, it's a house. Okay, you're in an apartment right now, you can't wait to get a house, and guess what? You'll finally get that house, and what will happen in the first month you have that house? Everything in there will break. The toilet will explode, the roof will leak, you'll learn terms you never learned before, there'll be termites. I mean, it's just the way that it is. Things break down. For some of you, it's a car, guys. For some of us, it's a car. And it's the car you've always wanted, that if you roll up in that, it doesn't matter if you work in a cubicle, you'll look like the boss, all right, because you got that car. And for some of us guys, when we reach a certain age, we suddenly want a car from our youth that we never had. It might have been a Corvette. It might have been a really souped-up truck. For me, it's a 1974 International Harvester Scout II, the finest ride you've never heard of. Friends, this is not a Bronco. This is a Scout. They only made a few of these. It's unbelievable. And I got this thing a while back, and it's incredible. The problem is it doesn't have windows. It smells like exhaust. My kids won't get near it, and it sounds awful, and it doesn't always run. But I love it, you know? Got to charge the battery again. That's fine. I love it. But it's a thing, and things always break down. For some of you, you're putting your hope in a thing, and it's called a vacation. You go all year with, oh, we don't see the kids very much. Oh, we're so busy. But we're going to take that 1 week in the summer, and it's going to make everything right. You know? Because that's what the commercials tell us. Everybody's hugging and singing and laughing and zippity-doo-dah, and Mickey's there, and it's awesome. And what do? You go on that Disney cruise, and by the time you get home, none of you are speaking to each other. Everybody's bitter and burnt and broke, and you know, it's just one of those, wow, we need another vacation, right? Because we put our hope in a thing. And here's the reality for all of us. We're going to put our hope in a thing, or we're going to put our hope in a person. And Saturday was the realization that hope was dead. And maybe for you right now, you're figuring out that you might have put your hope in the wrong thing. Now, there was a follower of Jesus. His name was Peter. He was very close to the situation, and he witnessed him die, and then he witnessed him after the resurrection. And years later, Peter tells us where he put his hope. Take a look at this. Praise be to the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. In his great mercy, he has given us new birth, and look at this, into a living hope through the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead. You want to know something fascinating? This word hope is used 71 times in the New Testament documents about Jesus and the first church. You know how many times it's used before the resurrection? Only once. You don't have to be a Bible scholar to figure out. People have discovered where their hope is found, because they talk about it 70 times after the resurrection. You see, the message of Easter is that God does his best work in hopeless Saturday situations. The story of Easter is that setbacks are set-ups for a comeback. You have to remember that the story of Easter is not a one-day story. It's not a two-day story. It's a 3-day story. The story of Easter is a 3-day story. And on Good Friday, Jesus died, and it was a dark day. On Saturday, it looked like hope was dead, and God was silent. But on the 3rd day, he arose. Death, burial, resurrection. Trouble, silence, deliverance. Beginning, middle, and end. The setback, the setup for the comeback. You see, while it appeared that all hope was lost and Saturday was the end, God was at work for Sunday. The problem with 3-day stories is you don't always know it's a 3-day story until the 3rd day, right? When it's Friday or when it's Saturday, it's as bad as it can get. But is it possible that the hopelessness you feel right now is just that you're only in day 2? And what if God is working behind the scenes to bring about your 3rd day? For some of you, it's incredible stress in your family, and you don't know how it's going to get better, but God is at work. For some of you, it's something at your office. You think, I don't know how we'll ever get through this, but God is at work. For some of you, it's an issue with an addiction, and you think, I don't know how I'll ever get out of this, but God is at work. For some of you, it's an issue with your marriage, and you think, it seems like we'll never make it, but God is at work. The question is, will you put your hope in something or someone? I, for one, am choosing to put my hope in someone who walked out of a grave. I'll tell you about somebody who put their hope in the wrong thing. They lived at the same time of Jesus and all of these disciples and everybody we've been talking about. And his name was Paul, and we can now call him the Apostle Paul. And what he put his hope in was religion, which a lot of us put our hope in religion. We kind of have this hope that if I'm just good enough, then I'll get into heaven and God will be okay with me, right? And he'd been trying to be good enough and good enough and good enough, but he never felt like he measured up, like a lot of us do, right? But then he met Jesus after the resurrection, and he found what it could be like to put his hope in someone rather than something. And look what he writes to one of the churches in the 1st century. He says, I pray that you will understand the incredible greatness of God's power for us who believe him. This is the same mighty power that raised Christ from the dead. Do you see what he's saying here? That same power that breathed life back into Jesus' body, that rolled away that stone, and that allowed Jesus to walk out that Easter Sunday, is the same power that can be alive in you. Your setback could be a setup for a comeback. The question is, will you receive it? In fact, as we've been preparing and planning for this day, we keep talking about and thinking about 2 words: receive and respond. And for you, maybe you have never come to a place in your life where you've decided just to receive God's love for you. Maybe for some of you, you thought that never could even exist because you know you and you think there's no way God could ever love me. And maybe for some of you, you've heard about the love of God so much, it's just lost on you. You think, oh yeah, whatever. But we wanted you to have a moment where you could just simply receive the love of God and know he's worth being your only hope. So here's what we're going to do. The band's going to play through this great song, and while they do it, I want to invite you to finally go ahead and open up that handout and read God's love for you. Take this moment to receive it.